This morning, we also talked about the challenges of government. And all throughout the day, the fact that business, free enterprise, the private sector is the best hope for solving problems. That said, as we heard from Jamie Dimon this morning, sometimes you've got to work with government, and it's important what you have to find good partners in government. And so here to talk about that issue is Governor John Kasich of the great state of Ohio, who has long been a champion of this. He's somebody who has long put service and action ahead of partisanship, and we're pleased to have him be having a wonderful conversations with Fortune's Nina Easton. Please welcome Governor John Kasich and Fortune's Nina Easton. Thanks.
Governor.
Hi.
Welcome.
How are you? I'm looking to see if there's anybody from Ohio here. They might dispute.
Yeah. Who's from Ohio?
Oh,
First of all, raise your hand.
I'm just kidding.
Okay. Okay. Not to make too fine a point of it, but who's Catholic? Governor, a former altar boy, just spent, 20, 25 minutes with the guardian angel of our event in Rome last year, Monsignor Franco. Where are you? Okay, so what did you guys talk about?
Well, we had the Secretary General back there also. I was saying to the two of them that, Nina, I'm glad you asked this because this is something I want to communicate, that I think that those who wear collars and those who preach, too many of them have given God a bad name. God's had bad publicity for a long time, okay? Because we think, if I say the word God, and I'm not wearing a collar, everybody has a think bubble. If you think, particularly with young people, it's not a real positive bubble up here because they think it's about who you're sleeping with and all the crazy, and all this judgment and everything. And God is different. God is about two things to me. God is about loving God, having humility, and secondly, loving your neighbor as you want your neighbor to love you. And when we look at so many of the problems that we have in the country today, it's because we don't do that as often as we should. And that's why we see the divisions. And then furthermore, when I think about CEOs, and I know a lot of them, and I've served on boards and very much enjoyed it. I was reading the other day about how, in your offices, you're not trained to take positions on things. Your job is to just maximize profits. Well, I was kind of astounded when I read that. I guess I would never be a good CEO because I would want to have opinions. And where are we supposed to go in this world today if our corporate leaders are not willing to step up, take a little heat, and express themselves? I think it's a very big part of what you do. I mean, within limits, but I do think you need to have a role. And I saw it happen when a bunch of people resigned from the President's Council and all that. That took guts to do. But there's also issues out there that are really, really important that you need to take a stand on. And one of them, I'll tell you right now, is public education. I mean, we have a public education, primary and secondary school system that's not educating people in too many cases, and a higher education system that's not preparing people for the workforce. Get dirty. Because if you don't do it, who's going to do it? If we don't prepare, but that takes risks. Yeah. But what's the big deal of taking a risk, right, Monsignor? You're going to die anyway. Just my goal is, my goal is when I die to have 80% of what they say about me or 70% of what they say about me be true.
Right.
So these values really do matter. And nobody's going for sainthood. We're all hypocrites, fallen, flawed. I'll be number one. But that doesn't mean we can't get up tomorrow and do better and be a center of ethics and values as best we can. And that's what, to me, the Lord allows you to transcend, so much of the gravity of this world to live a life a little bigger than yourself. So what I try to do, I'm a failure, but I try.
So
I'm
very,
serious.
very
We all
Catholic,
are.
very Catholic of you. So
I'm not a Catholic, though, anymore. I didn't want to tell the Monsignor that, but I thought he might hit me with something. But,
So you know, I was at my son's medical school ceremony at UCLA, and they were saying, we at UCLA believe in making students who are a doctor and something else. And what you're saying is you have to be a CEO and something else.
I think that's right. That's exactly what I'm saying. And sometimes people say, okay, well, my board won't appreciate it. Well, you know, boards will understand if you feel you need to make a commitment in a certain direction. And if they don't, then you're probably working for the wrong company.
Right.
I mean, and you're making lots of money anyway. You know, I met, who was the guy? I met the coach of the University of Kentucky. He's a terrific guy. He's from Pittsburgh. And he came into his suite where I was watching the Penguins play, and I said, do you ever get nervous during those basketball games? They might let you go. He said, are you kidding me? I made more money than I ever dreamt. They could fire me tomorrow, and I don't care. It was an interesting perspective that now it's time for me to really cash in and make these kids better and have values and all of that. And I was, you know, really impressed with it. So I love CEOs that'll just tell it like it is and stand for certain things and take risks.
So we're going to drill down on some of that and how these CEOs can help the public sector in a number of areas. But before we get into words like insurance stabilization after dinner and drinks, let's talk about just a little bit of politics. And this is not so much for political gossip factor, but it's a reality. And I'm talking about the unity ticket. And my experience having done numerous, every year, speeches, political speeches to business audiences, is it always ends with our business leaders saying, how come we don't have moderates running for office? Why don't we have Democrats and Republicans supporting each other? Why don't we have that? And the numbers just never seem to add up. What is the future of moderation in American politics?
Well, you know, I think it gets down to these values I talked about earlier. I mean, what are you trying to do? Are you just worried about your party? Are you just worried about re-election? I mean, when do you reach? And frankly, it's a lot more satisfying when you reach. You know, I was in Congress for 18 years. I was 30 years old when I went. And I was involved in welfare reform. I was involved in Pentagon reform. I was involved with Clinton in terms of balancing the budget. I was chairman of the budget committee. Those were great, great times. I limited the production of the B-2 with Ron Dellums, who was to the left of, you know, about as left as you can get. And he's a dear friend of mine. Yeah. Now I'm working with Hickenlooper on health care plans, working with a lot of Democrats, a lot of Republicans.
So everybody knows,
the governor of Colorado.
And his pair on the Unity Party ticket that you denied is going to happen.
You couldn't do that because you can't pronounce Kasich and you couldn't fit Hickenlooper on a bumper sticker, so that won't work. So that's out of the question.
Nevertheless, that idea was floated
Look, we'll never get
a month
anything
ago.
done in politics unless both parties come together. And what is your role? I mean, I'll be honest with you, if you really want to know, don't lip service these politicians. You just need to tell them, this is what I expect. If you don't do it, fine. If you don't want to do it, that's up to you, but don't come knocking on my door. And I'm not trying to pressure you by giving you money or anything else. If you can't begin to stand up and solve some of the big issues, then I got to find somebody else who can. And that's tough talk, and it makes all your government affairs people crazy, and they're nervous, and they say, what are we going to get the next deal? Don't be afraid. Tell them the truth and hold them accountable. And we just can't have all this fighting. Look, our debt now is approaching, what, 80% of GDP? And when it gets to 100%, you're Japan. You have no growth, no jobs, more poverty, more drugs, more division, more everything. And so it's not really that hard. It's just that people have to just reach out. The politicians do, but you've got to encourage them. And when you see somebody who has guts, go to war for them. Get behind them. Stand up. But most of the time, they're letting you down. And that doesn't mean all your own individual issues. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a global picture of the greater good. Somebody who you can trust, who has good judgment, who you can say, okay, you're not with me on this issue, fine. But look, you need to stop being bombastic. You need to stop shutting things down, and you need to work with other people. I think that's fair.
Top top of the agenda issue, healthcare reform.
Well, it should be bipartisan. You can't fix anything. You can't fix, and when I talk about the debt growing, that means you have to get into entitlement reform. So you have to fix Medicaid. You have to fix Medicare. You know, you fix Medicare, get it on the right track. Use the market. Let's pay for value instead of quantity. And there's another element of that. Do you realize that when you get on Medicare, the default option is not managed care? The default option is fee-for-service. If we just move people into managed care, and not the managed care of 20 years ago where people were denied everything, but managed care, coordinated care, you're now saving a ton of money by taking people out of fee-for-service, putting them into managed care. I took a Medicaid program in Ohio that was growing at 9%. It now grows at 1.7%. We got the lowest uninsured rate in the history of the state. I think that's true. And the fact of the matter is, it's because we reformed things. Now, was the reform easy? No, but we got it done. I'll give you a good example. The nursing homes, and I'm for nursing homes when they're needed, but I want people to get home health care. But we had a system that forced everybody into the nursing home instead of letting them stay in their home. And people are here from Ohio, I had a war over this. Fortunately, we won, so we've saved a lot of money. We go and we do reforms that make common sense. We don't care about the politics. I have a really good staff, and that's what we need to do, and we can fix these things. Social Security, you just start the baby boomers at a little lower starting point. Now, that's a tough one. Every day we wait on this, we're deeper and deeper in the hole, and the medicine that you need to cure it is more and more difficult. But we have to get on these things for the good of our children, grandchildren, and the growth of our country, economic growth.
So another issue that this group has talked about at length is the non-college educated population in this country. And it's fascinating that people don't really know that 70% of folks in this country don't have college degrees. College degrees insulate you from unemployment. They actually pay back in terms of income. It's the non-college educated population that is truly suffering. It's where we're seeing a lot of the drug addiction, opioid addiction, and so forth. Your state is ground zero for that. What can the people in this room do to help on that?
First of all, to have a chance to talk to all of you is like a very big deal to me, okay? And if I'm strong here, it's because I've got limited time, and it looks like my life is ticking down here in front of me.
Don't look.
But I want to tell you a couple things. Many of you who are successful want to be involved in education reform and all this stuff, okay? And you go out, you put this stuff on the ballot, and you lose every time, and you spend a lot of money. God bless you. Choice is important. But you know what's really important? Is for you to be in the schools, to go meet with the school board and help them design a curriculum that matches the skills with the jobs that we have. Secondly, you need to figure out, and we're trying to do this in Ohio, what are the jobs of the future? And how do we educate our young people to be in a position where they can accept change? And you need to change these curriculums. You need to be involved in there. You need to be making sure that if they come to work for you, which is what I love, these co-ops and the ability. My daughter works for Pink right now. She's 17 years old. She comes home, she's showing my wife spreadsheets. We couldn't even get her to look at a math book, right? So the experiences in the business make such a difference. We need to get kids out of the classroom. That's so 19th century and into where you are. We need to stress competency-based education. You know what that is? That you don't need to have a PhD to go to work for you if you have the skills that give you value in your company. You need to place curriculum online so a person working at McDonald's who's a single mom with a couple kids can get an entry job into the insurance industry because all the baby boomers are retiring. They don't need to go to business school to do that. I mean, you have to be engaged in all that. And one other thing, Western and Southern down in Cincinnati, they've taken their employees and they let them go into one of the schools. I think they have like a 63% graduation rate in Cincinnati schools. They go into the schools, they're there every week for a year. The graduation rate is like 97% because they're teaching kids about their future, about hope, about what they can be. They show them their cars, they show them their clothes. They said, this can be you. Mentoring is a huge deal. We've all made it because we've had great mentors in our lives. If we do not give people skills, they will have no value, and if they have no value, they don't know where they're going to go. And one other issue I've just started to think about, contract employees. So now I have 3 jobs. I drive for Uber, I drive a truck for Amazon, I got some other thing, I got 3 jobs. What's my identity? I have no identity. What's my 401k? I got no 401k. See, we need to start thinking about where we want this country to be in terms of unifying it, give people skills, and listen, don't think I'm just a politician. I can prove it to you. I used to, well, maybe this is another, I used to work on Wall Street for Lehman Brothers, okay? I was on boards of companies. I understand profit. I understand it's not a dirty word. But I also believe that there are many things that you can do if you think creatively to give these young people, and how about our 50-year-olds? What are we supposed to tell them? You lost your job in a traditional job, now you're out to pasture?
Who are, by the way, they have the lowest workplace participation.
We got to give them the skills, and government has got to get its act together. Our job training programs are ridiculous. There's so much that can be done and must be done to give people hope, to give them skills, to give them work, to give them meaning in their lives.
So I want to bring in the audience, but I want to drill down on that a minute. So get your questions ready. This population that does not have college degrees but can be incredible workers, what have you seen that works in terms of vocational schools or community colleges or training programs within companies? Give us some guidance on what works.
Well, first of all, I think the 2-year schools are the most responsive. They're much more responsive than a 4-year school. Trying to reform a 4-year school is like trying to move a battleship. The 2-year schools will change, and they'll change quickly. And if you have a need for employees, you call us. I'll tell you how to go to a community college, and you tell the community college exactly what you need in what time frame, and I guarantee you, you can get it done. And if they say they can't do it, then you say, I'm going to help you to do it because these are the skills that I need. These are the things that I need these people to be able to do. Competency-based education is nothing more than having the skills that are required in order to be able to work for you. You don't need a 4-year, I mean, I love you to have a 4-year degree, but you don't need it. And I was thinking about Walmart. They have this program, you get a Walmart degree. I was reading this the other day. This guy walks across the stage getting his Walmart diploma. He never even got a GED from high school, and he's wearing his best suit, and he walks across the stage, and his family is cheering. Tell me about that guy. Why aren't we all doing this? This takes nothing. This is the self-interest of business to train our people and to get this done. And you can do it. That's what I always ask. I always say to people, you tell me what you need and we will go find it. Amazon Cloud Computing, there's 3 of them in the country. One is in Columbus, Ohio. Our community colleges are working to train people in cloud computing and all the things that they need to know. 3 community colleges, I think it's 3, I know it's 2, and I've called the community colleges in. I say train these people, let nothing get in your way. Please do this, and they're doing it. So part of it is you can train them internally. I think part of it is you can train them online at a fraction of the cost. You can talk to your community colleges. The other thing we have to think about, and I was down at Siemens. I love Siemens. I was down with the board down in Washington, and the CEO and chairman, he's a fantastic guy. And if we don't change...
Where is he? He was here earlier.
Well, he's not as great as I thought he was. But let me tell you what he'll say to you, and I get a little more dramatic than he is, but he says, we have to think about the jobs that are coming. Yeah. You think we're divided today? Okay, think about what it'll be like when all these truck drivers, where are they going to go?
Yeah.
I mean, I know this was talked about by the General Secretary. I mean, I'm saying to you that my sense is we need to figure out where we're going. That's what made Gretzky great. He didn't know where the puck was. He anticipated and he was there. We have to think about what the jobs are going to be and get people moving in that direction, which means you've got to be in those schools, starting, by the way, even in the 1st grade. You've got to be in there talking to them about what does a weatherman do? What does a welder do? What does a person with computer, what do they do? How do you hire them? I'm an insurance executive, okay? Do you know what risk is? That's math. Are you good in math? I mean, that's the way we have to think about this. Please, leaving it to the schools without you, it's not going to get there because you know you're not finding the workers today. You are just not.
And isn't it even more imperative with the decline of unions who provided a lot of the training in the past for companies to take it on?
Well, it's expensive, but it is in your interest. But I also think that if we take all these other assets, the 4-year school, the 2-year community college, the ability to take kids in high school and get them now in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade into your businesses, that you would begin to solve this problem. But we have to anticipate what's going to come. You need to have somebody that's going to do it. Your HR people have to think about this. And look, I'm willing to talk to anybody that's in this room about what we're trying to do. Not that we've got it figured out. We don't. But we're more ahead on workforce, I think, than most states. Because to me, that is the biggest issue. Amazon is thinking about a new headquarters. It's all about workforce. Yep. Can I present the most exciting workforce plan that will work to give them the people that they need? But we can't, don't forget all the government. You know, politicians sometimes are just so worried about tomorrow. If they just worry a little bit more about today, we'd get a lot farther. I'm sorry about that. It's just frustrating.
Great frank words. This is what you're known for. Questions? Tiger? I think. Tom.
Governor, thanks for coming. Tom Wilson from Allstate. Today we were talking about authenticity and intestinal fortitude, and you just showed us some of that, which I appreciate. And I wonder if you could share your personal leadership lessons around it. So not the what we should do, but sort of how, because we're all leaders and we're all trying to learn. And I've watched you over the years. I saw you at an event with a group to the right, and when you talked about first taking the Obamacare money and talking about people not letting people with mental health issues be on the street, and there was a crowd probably would have liked some money from, but they didn't seem very friendly at that point. You've gone against your own party, and you've just, as you noted, just recently fighting in your own state around it. Maybe you could help us. What are the leadership lessons that you've taken away from that would be helpful to us as we think about whether it's going against those people who only want us to make money or stepping out and taking the risk? So it's a question about your leadership lessons for us.
You know, people love CEOs who've got values. Michael Novak, the great theologian, wrote that a free enterprise system that's not underlaid with a set of values is bankrupt. I buy that. And we were talking earlier today about, oh, we need to make money. I was at BuzzFeed. There's like my people were saying, well, they need to make money. I said, wait a minute. Making money is a secondary. You deliver something good and the money comes. You can't, if that's all you're in it is to make the money, it's probably not going to work. And if it does work, then you might find yourself empty at the end of the day. Sir, look, I don't think this is easy. I don't, but I think to some degree, when you wake up in the morning, you got to look in the mirror and say, am I doing the right thing by what I'm doing? I talked to a television executive after he made $1 billion on the campaign. I called him when it was over, and I said, look, you made $1 billion. Now they're going to tell you to make another $1 billion. I just want to know if you can look in the mirror when you're in the process of making the second $1 billion. So, and he always said, thanks for calling. You're right. I'm going to think about it. So what I would love to do is work with you. I would love to say, look, I take this crap all the time. I try to figure out, I don't want to be bombastic. I don't want to be out here swinging from the chandeliers. But I have a job to do. And I have a moment in time to do that job. And I've got to do the best I can. And what I know is people who yell the loudest are the ones I should listen to the least. And I need to chart a course and be comfortable walking a lonely road. You didn't get to be CEO because you weren't tough. But sometimes you've got to do your thing. And guess what? If it doesn't work and you have to walk away, so what? There'll be another thing that will come, right? Don't you think? Even, I know that's not easy to say because you're at the pinnacle of power. But you know, it's not worth trading all that power for money, fame, or glory. I don't think, because I don't think that is what at the end you feel good about. And I would just say, you know what's right, and you have to do it. You know, at Allstate, you know, I mean, I got Cincinnati Insurance, okay? You know I love them. Come out to my house, I got a hailstorm. I don't have to have a 2-hour debate with, they come out and say, yeah, it's, you know, done, done. Now, are they going to miss some? Of course they're going to miss some. But you know what? By and by, Johnson & Johnson. Remember they took all the Tylenol off the shelves? Not an easy decision at the time. You know, so I'm saying to you that people remember you for the things that you do beyond how much money you make. It's about how you've brought change to the world and how you've changed and affected your employees. I don't know if that helps you. But I don't worry too much about it. Now, look, I'm not running for anything. So the fact is
yeah, well, wait a second. Wait. Let's stop right there.
Let me just tell you. I don't know. Look, I'm lame duck. But I think for the people that are here from Ohio, nothing's really...
Have you heard the words 2020?
Nothing's really, I don't think, changed that much with me. In fact, I've gotten to be softer in some ways, but I'm still determined. And if somebody doesn't like the fact that I'm expanding Medicaid, which helps to treat the mentally ill, the drug addicted, and the chronically ill, I'm supposed to worry about that? I mean, that seems like that's pretty clear for me. But for you, sir, I believe you got to have a good group of people around you that you can really trust, where you can say, am I right about this? And you at the end, you listen to them, you listen to what they have to say, and you make a decision. And it's not always easy. I worry about I don't worry about him, but you know, I worry about Mark Fields a little bit. He was there, and now he's not. So how's he doing? And I hope he's doing well. And I believe he is going to do well in his life. Isn't that what you want your kids to think about you? You're so young. You got 2 careers to go, okay? But I also think have that group around you that where you can say, look, this is really hard for me. I'm struggling. What do you think? Because it'll make a difference if they're trusted. If they're just people that are trying to get along with you and move up the list, forget it. But if you can trust them, and how do you trust them? Because they got values. That, to me, is what it really gets down to. And I'll say the last thing. We're all screwballs, okay? Let's just assume that. None of us will get it right at the end. But if we can get it right more often than we get it wrong, because my greatest fear is to be hoisted off my self-righteous petard. I know it's inevitable. Okay. But then I can say, I told you so.
We're going to
Yes.
Thank you, Monsignor Kasich. Yeah.
Good evening, Governor. I'm going to ask you, Sheeta Bina from Insigniam. I'm going to ask you a question about how business can contribute to government. And I'm going to recall a time about 25 years ago when Philadelphia was on the verge of bankruptcy, and Ed Rendell created a private sector task force, which he copied from Cleveland, I believe, where all the businesses in the area each volunteered an executive full-time, right? And they audited the entire government through the lens of business, came up with $200 million in savings that were easy, relatively speaking, and saved Philadelphia. You touched a little bit on education, but taking into account today's climate, how can business best make a contribution to government?
Well, no, I think you need to be this workforce. I said it 50 times now. That's what you really need to work on. That's the most important thing. Transforming our education system from a bunch of people who are coming in from the fields, you know, the farm economy and all that, to a 21st century economy, being actively involved in K through 12 and higher ed, affecting these school boards. You need to do that. I think you also need to engage in the anti-drug efforts in your businesses. We can't have all these people going on drugs. We've got to be educating our employees. I mean, that's another thing that you can do. But it's not like, I don't need you to come in and like audit my books or something like that. Or I need my businesses to be mentoring, involved in education. Those are the 2 big things that come to my mind. And in terms of Washington or even legislation, bring your people in, have them say what you want, but at the end of the day, let the person in charge make a decision that hopefully is consistent with everything else they're doing. That's a whole other discussion, but I think you can do that. I'll tell you one of the things that we did, and we privatized economic development in Ohio. We created a not-for-profit organization, and that organization bought Ohio's liquor business. It cost, I think, $1.6 billion. We had low prices on the bonds. Why? Because in good times people drink, and in bad times they drink more. So the bonds were secure. And we then took the money, paid off some of the bonds that we had in the liquor business, and we created basically, it's not an investment bank, but it is an organization that is filled with people who are experts in business. So, for example, in the old days, if Jamie Dimon, who was here, would have called Ohio's economic development, said, yes, okay, yes, hang up the phone, somebody next to him would say, who was that? Well, that was Jamie Dimon. Well, what did she want? Okay? Today, we have skilled people, and I appoint the board. So to be able to get good business people to serve on our Jobs Ohio board, to get some business people, you don't have to serve, but to get your people to serve on the boards of higher education where most governors appoint. Those are the kind of things that I think really matter. And we hear a lot about, Washington, all the debate that's going on now. I happen to believe, and I just was told tonight, that Popovich down there in San Antonio, he said something that I've been saying for a long time. We build America from the bottom up, not the top down. And anything that you can do to help build America from the bottom up. In our state, Kroger has been engaged in the anti-drug program. They will say, why don't you round up for the homeless? Why don't you round up for the hurricane? Anything that business can do to show a kind face and a conscience right where we live, up, not top down, bottom up. That's how I think we get the country back. I really believe it. Because if you're waiting on the top, we're like Godot. Godot's never coming.
So, Governor, we're getting the hook. You've been incredibly rousing and inspirational. What is the one sentence you want to leave with these CEOs tonight?
Come to Ohio. And I do have one prediction. I do have one prediction, too. And you remember that I said it. And I'm not saying this because of rah-rah. When you have incredible pitching and amazing hitting, you win World Series. So go to Vegas, put all your money on the Cleveland Indians. I'm going to predict that right now. Thank you all.
Governor, thank you so much.
See you all. Thank you.